Pricing can be very, very simple, like an account item price. It can be two-level declaration, like the chain get a price, and if the chain is not defined through price, then you get from the item. It can be per specific properties of the account, like in a specific region or specific size of an account, get one price. So usually it's like a pyramid.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. When it comes to beating timely growth targets, pricing is an essential and powerful tool for marketers. Also, in the world of e-commerce, where you might not have as much relationship leverage and location advantage, pricing strategy becomes critical. When we think about pricing and discounting strategies, I'm sure you are perhaps thinking of buy one, get one free and B2C. But pricing strategies are even more complex in the world of B2B with account and contract complications. In today's episode, we have our guest, Eyal Rozenberg, who discusses B2B e-commerce pricing nuances and how it is different and more complex than B2C. He also talks about various complex pricing scenarios such as sub-order, which impact user experience and ERP interactions. Finally, he describes the differences between pricing, discount, and coupon, and why multi-channel pricing scenarios are even more complex to implement. Let me introduce Eyal to you. Eyal Rozenberg is a highly creative and experienced senior product manager with profound experience in B2B platforms and extensive IT knowledge in IT architectures and mobile applications. With that, let's get to the conversation. Hey y'all, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much.
Of course, we are super excited to have you because pricing is always going to be a very interesting topic that our listeners like to hear. Just to get things off, do you want to start with your personal story and your current focus?
Sure. I joined Peppery about 4 years ago as a product manager. And before Peppery, I worked at Magic Software, managing a cross-platform software development product. And I wanted something to be more specific, so I joined Peppery, which is a similar issue, a platform which you can easily configure it to do some things, especially focused on the e-commerce. And in that product, I'm especially went into the channel of pricing, which is a huge and complex area. And I think it's one of the exciting things about e-commerce platforms is the pricing.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, I mean, great background. And again, it's going to be super exciting to dig deeper into the pricing complexity, especially when we think of the B2B businesses. They typically have very complex pricing needs and algorithm. But before we do that, we have one more standard question that we ask every single guest that come on the show. And that is going to be your perspective on business growth here.
I think that nowadays, especially after the corona, it is very, very clear that if your business does not have an a digital e-commerce platform, that you're not going to survive in the next couple of years. And one of the key features of having a good e-commerce platform is having a pricing model which you can support your needs. So I think that the growth will be much bigger using e-commerce, and we need to back it up.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And I have personally seen a lot of innovation just around pricing. And in case of e-commerce, pricing is going to be extremely tricky because obviously it's a very transactional business. And if you can figure out, let's say, even 1 cent of margin, I mean, that could be big for a lot of businesses. So on that note, do you have any specific stories that you might be able to share around B2B pricing something that you have done, something that you are really proud of, or maybe just break down the nuances of B2B pricing?
Yeah, sure. One working on the pricing, you think you've seen it all, and every time we encounter a new customer, we see something that we didn't see before. And I'll give you one example of how complex can it be. We have a big winery customer which sells wine to different stores, and he uses pricing and uses promotions like buy X get Y, mix and match, and all of those classic things that usually are supported. And one of his requirements was, okay, I want to sell 3 bottles out of 10 and then get some incentive, but I want that each of the bottles will be of a different winery. So such a strange requirement that along the mix and match, even the mix has to be sub-classified to different rules, and different winery, of course, this is one example. It can be much more complex than that. And I think this is the essence of pricing. You think you've seen it all, and then it always surprises you with much more things that are required by marketing or other people in the organization. And actually, in this example, we wrote an entire logic mechanism with a limitation engine that allows him to define specific relations between each of the items that he buys, to define those specific criteria of what to get and what not to get. It was a very, very interesting project that I was involved in.
Interesting. So I don't know if you are going to have insight into the other platforms that they might have looked at. I don't know if you are aware of any of the challenges utilizing the existing platform, the e-commerce platform that might exist in the market. Do you have any insight on the alignment of, I don't know if they had an ERP, because the pricing needs to be communicated from the ERP to your e-commerce platform. And sometimes the representation of pricing is going to be different in these two systems. Did you come across any of those challenges in this engagement?
Yes, you're entirely correct. Some of our customers use the ERP for the pricing. Some use our platform for the pricing. In this case, the pricing came from the ERP, but after having those complex requirements for the promotion, they decided to get the pricing from the ERP and handle all the promotions in Peppery. So it's like kind of a mix and match, doing some part in the ERP and some part in our platform, and they have the best of both.
Okay. What are some of the best practices in your opinion when you are, let's say, designing the pricing? And when we look at any of the business strategy, whether you are talking about, structuring your customers, vendors, or you are defining pricing discount coupons. I mean, you could over-engineer them from the business perspective. You can implement whatever the business is asking, and sometimes that could overcomplicate because they could be harder to understand even for consumers. So what are some of the best practices that you have seen in terms of defining the pricing that is going to work for consumers, as well as that is going to be easier to implement across the platform? You are not going to have any issues across the systems.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Some customers want to have the pricing so complex that even their reps don't understand what gets there and why do they get the price. And especially for this customer, by the way, they wanted to have automatic discounts, which we support anyway, but they wanted it to be very, very complex. And one of the things that we told them, okay, no, tell your marketing, we're not going to support that. Tell them one of the things that we did is to provide a package module, which inside the sales order, you open a mini sales order in which you see the items that you need to select in order to get a discount. And they didn't want it at first. They thought it's a bit complex to go into a sub-order. But one of the things that we've seen with other customers is that this mechanism to make transparency to the user is very, very important. And once we've covered and released this module and their reps went into this sub-order and saw what they need to buy, it was so informative for them, and they can do a very big upsell using this mechanism. So this is one of the key features I think that is very, very important. Make it very transparent. Even if marketing wants something, if it's very complex and no one understands it, then don't do it.
Okay, so interesting perspective there. And I don't know where this winery business was, because winery is a very different business overall compared to other B2B businesses that we may see, just because of the kind of regulations they have, the kind of processes they have. It's just a different business altogether. So in this particular case, you mentioned the term suborder, and I am not sure if our listeners are going to be familiar with that. So how does suborder works? What is the relationship of this suborder with the main sales order? And how are the line items going to be structured? What are going to be pricing implications in the suborder compared to the main sales order?
Okay, so I'll give you an example from the market, from the food market. Not just wine, food is a very common big market. And usually when you go to a supermarket and you buy different things, suddenly at the end, at the cashier, you find out that you got one item for free or you got a discount on a specific item. What we're saying, we don't want you to get to understand that at the end, at the cashier, at the checkout process, you get something. We want you to be aware of that during the order. So by having a sub-orders, what we call packages or kits, means that in the order center, when you see all the items, you also see those special promotions. Buy something and get something. And you click in to get inside this sub-order. And then you see what you need to buy and what you're going to get. And you see an image, an information text, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And then you're fully aware that if you buy 3, you get something. But if you buy 5, you get something else. And this can be it can be a simple item, it can be a very complex, handled on multiple items. So buy one of this kind, 2 of the other kind, and so on. And then at the end, you'll get something. It doesn't matter what you get. It can be a different discount, a different price. The entire suborder can get a total price, which affects all the items inside of it. And once you're done with that, then you click, okay, I'm done with this suborder or a package or a kit. They have different names in different markets. And then this entire suborder is merged to the original sales order and is part of the original sales order. So you see all the lines in your original order. But having a suborder helps you organize things, helps your buyer, your rep, to see things more clearly and to focus on what he needs to sell.
Interesting. So in my experience, when I have these scenarios, let's say if you are doing buy 1, get 2, or buy 2, get 1, depending upon how generous you are, I guess.
Yeah.
If you are doing that, obviously, number one, you need to talk to the ERP, and, the majority of the ERP platforms are not going to handle this as sub-order. And the reason for that is because if you create a new sales order, then your order to cash cycle is going to be completely different, because now you are actually creating another document from the sales perspective that needs to be closed financially when you get to the invoicing phase. So typically, in my experience, what I have personally seen is, let's say if you have these promotions, the promotion is actually going to be listed as part of at line item level, but that is actually going to be reflected in the line item. So you are going to be able to see that there was a promo that was applied on a specific item, and then the reflection of that is going to be included at the line item level on that sales order. So did you run into any challenges when you handled it as sales order? Did this sub order exist only in case of your e-commerce platform, and then you killed it after you merged it with the parent sales order? So how did you handle the overall life cycle of the sub order?
Yeah, so it doesn't have a life of its own. It's just for the purpose of editing the content of this kit or package. But once we integrate with the ERP, then of course ERP are not meant to handle such a scenario. So we flatten everything into the original sales order, have some promotion code or ERP code, depends on the ERP on the original order lines, and then they are sent to the ERP. So the ERP is not even aware that such a process took effect. Okay, this is just for the end user to make the UX much better for him and to increase your sales. Because we saw that once we use this mechanism, sales increases because the user knows that he needs to buy one more to get something. Otherwise, he finalized the purchase and he didn't get anything, but he didn't knew he could get something, so he buy one less. And by the way, in respect to buy one get two, it can happen. I know some markets of in the cosmetics that you buy one and you get 2 samples for free. Of course, there are samples, but it's buy one, get 2. So it can happen.
Right. So I like the way you are describing that the user experience is actually going to differ overall from the pricing perspective, how you are going to be accounting for this in your ERP system. And in my personal experience, you are absolutely right that we have seen some of these requirements where your user experience is going to have very different needs from the pricing perspective, from the representation perspective, and that may not be completely aligned with how you are going to handle that operationally. So now, from the UX perspective, you said that this particular mechanism increased sales, and obviously this must be aligned with the user's expectations, and that's why it actually increased the sales. So describe the user experience. What is the user seeing when they are looking at the sub order? Are they seeing the separate order in case of their shopping cart when they come to the website? So can you describe the flow, how the discount is going to appear when they look at, let's say, if they are searching for the product for the first time? Are they going to see during the search the coupon, and when they are going to include that in the shopping cart, are they going to see it there? Are they going to see when they are, let's say, are ready to do the checkout? At that time, are they going to see the sales order? So can you describe the entire flow from the user experience perspective, how user is going to see the promo, and how the sales order is going to be represented when they are finally ready to hit the submit button?
Okay, so keep in mind we're talking about B2B, and the promotion and pricing rules is very, very complex, and we can talk about it later on, because this is the entire huge mechanism to support different pricing and different promotion for different accounts and items. But to answer your question, on the sales order, it depends on the customer. Some customers want to see it in different filters. So the first time they open the order, they will see, for example, today's promotions, buy 6, get 1, buy 2 of a brand and get something, etc.
Yeah.
Some customers want to see them in line with other items. So if you go into Milk Diaries, then you see all the items plus the promotion items. But the common case is once you choose this item and click on it, the entire sub-order is opened. You don't have a cart there. It's not cart, but it seems as the regular sales order. You see all the fields, all the images and information. You will see a nice title with an image explaining to you what this promotion is about and how much items you need to buy. And it can be multiple tiers, by the way. It can be buy 3, get 1, buy 5, get 2. So it doesn't need to be a simple sub-order. It can be very complex sub-order. It's an entire world. And once you buy something and you click next to go to the next phase, sometimes you'll get the discount or the incentive automatically, but sometimes it's mix and match. Buy 5 and then select one from a variety of 4. So you see a different screen, same as the first one, and it's like a wizard. So going from the first phase into the second phase, and then back to your sales order, seeing all the items that you've chosen in one place. So it's like going into deep inside the order, opening like a wizard-like, so the user will understand what's happening there, and then showing to him the cart of the original order with everything that he's chosen. So this is in a very high-level design of the idea.
Okay, amazing. So now you seem to be using the word complexity overall in case of B2B scenario, but the scenario that you are describing, in my opinion, I think that's slightly more B2C, because this is going to be aligned towards the consumers when you do buy to get one. I don't know if that is going to be really applicable in case of the B2B customers. At least in my experience, I have not seen these scenarios as much, I would say, in case of B2B. So when you say B2B is complex in comparison to your B2C, what are some of the specific complexities that you have seen? So for example, let's say if I have a customer who might be doing the business, let's say with retail customers or the e-commerce customers, and now they are exploring that they are going to be working now, let's say with the distributors or one of the, I don't know, maybe contractors who might be buying these goods for their customers. So this is going to be a B2B scenario. Now, in these cases, when the business owner or the CFO or the manufacturing CFO does not really have understanding of how to structure pricing for the B2B market, what are some of the specific complexities that you have seen that you would be able to coach this executive of the B2B market?
So first of all, I disagree with you regarding to buy one, get one, or mix and match in the B2B. We have a lot of customers that use it in B2B. We are only B2B, we're not B2C yet. And lots of customers are using those mix and match, whether they give free samples, for example, or whether they have an item that they want to promote, whether this is, let's say, a special offering that they offer, buy 5 of something and get one that they want to promote for free. So they have lots of mix and match. I was even surprised myself how many mix and match customers have, and it depends and different. It's different in each market. For cosmetics, as I told you, it's buy something and get samples for free, or up to 5 samples for free, and then you need to choose them. In the wine, I've given you the example of buy 3 wines from winery and get something. Usually they want to get rid of some stock, so they give it away. And we have also it in the food, in eyewear, different things, and you get some different things for free. Now, for the complexity, this is a really, really interesting field, pricing, because pricing can be very, very simple, like an account item price. It can be a 2-level declaration, like the chain get a price, and if the chain is not defined for price, then get from the item. It can be per specific properties of the account, like in a specific region or specific size of an account, get one price. It can be per the item brand or per property of the item. So different combinations of things can apply. So usually it's like a pyramid building up the prices. You start with the basic level of a common price for all items, for all accounts per an item. And then you go up the levels and make it more complex. So a common price for an item, then you get all the chain get a discount because this is the contract. So they get a different price. And then 2 specific stores in this chain get specific price for an item because I want to sell this item there more, or because there is bigger competition there. And then eventually you come to the end of the pyramid, which is 1 account per item, and then it gets the price. So it's like joining lots of rules, business rules usually, it's a marketing rules, until you decide what the price is for an item. And the same can go for discounts, by the way. We're talking about prices, but for discounts, it's very similar mechanism. You can get a discount in the level of the account, in the level of the item, the level of the properties of an item. It can even be manual discount that the reps give to an account, as long as the profit margin remains above some kind of a level. And pricing can also be taken from the last order. So if from the last order, the rep gave a manual discount for an item for a specific account, then when I go into the order, a new order next month to order something, I will see the last discount that the rep approved for me, and I will start from there. So we defined all the pyramid, and eventually you will get the last price, last order price. So it's very complex, and I can tell you that no 2 companies use the same rules and mechanism. Your pricing must be very complex to support all those combinations, because as I told you, almost every customer that I see, he works differently. And your sales B2B commerce platform needs to support all of these things if you want to enable proper business for this customer.
Okay, so let's say if some of the listeners might not really be familiar with, and sometimes, there's always going to be a confusion around what pricing is, what discount is, what coupons is, and sometimes people use them interchangeably. So in your opinion, what is the difference between pricing and discount? And what can you do to make sure that you don't have any sort of overlap between those two? And maybe if you can touch the coupons as well, what is the real difference between the pricing, discount, and coupons?
Okay, so I would say that pricing is whatever is not dependent on quantity. So when you go to an order and you open the order and you see a price, this is the price. It comes from a pyramid of rules engines and calculations, but eventually when you start the order and you see the price, this is the basic price. This is how I call a price. So it can come from a variety of things like the account, the contract, even last order, depends on the customer. And once you start playing with the quantities, then you are getting into a discount. Now, a discount can be a discount in dollars or euro or in currency. It can be a discount in percentage. It can be a discount in free items. So it can be different things. But eventually, once you start playing with the quantities, buy 5 and then get a discount, then we're talking about discount. And coupons is a different level. A third level is once you finish your order or you're in the cart now, then you have a different level, which is not dependent on quantity. Sometimes it does depend on quantity. If you want that the discount will not be given automatically, you send a coupon for it. Usually our customers do not want it and you want to give the discount automatically. If you buy 10 items, then you get a discount no matter if you have a coupon or not. It's a B2B. So coupons are used, but much less than B2C. Because you have the power to limit the discount to be per specific customers. So you don't need a coupon to do it like in B2C. And of course, it can be even more complex if you have order level discount. I saw a customer in the food industry that usually for customers paying with a credit card, if they pay with cash, they will get additional discount. So it's even calculated based on the payment method of what customer is usually paying versus what he planned to pay now. Then he will get additional discount. This is from the food industry. Very surprising, but it's there.
Okay, so in my experience, when I look at the B2B space, there are some specific nuances of the B2B, and they are only prevalent in case of B2B. Typically, you are not going to have as much overlap, let's say, in case of B2C. So in my experience, number one, in case of B2B, your number of order lines that you are going to have on a specific order are going to be far larger because you are working in the wholesale scenario as opposed to the transactional or the consumer scenario. So as opposed to having, let's say, 2 or 3 lines, you are probably going to have 1,000 lines. And from the perspective of pricing, now your pricing complexity increases because you are utilizing a lot more items in deriving your pricing. That is actually going to increase the competition. It is going to increase the time in doing the competition for pricing. So that is actually going to drive your user experience overall because it's going to take more time in processing the transaction. The other things that I have personally seen in case of B2B are going to be credit term. That is not typically prevalent in case of your B2C. They only exist in case of B2B because you are allowing your customers to be able to pay later as opposed to doing it upfront. In case of B2C, you might want them to swipe their credit card right away or pay using cash. But in case of your B2B, you are actually deferring the payment. You are asking them to allow them to do the payment using the invoices. The other thing that we have seen is going to be the contract. Okay, so you are going to have some sort of pricing contract. All of these things have some sort of pricing implications. They drive the pricing. They are going to have relationship with the pricing. So in your experience, do you have any stories where you might be able to share related to these 3 or 4 different items that I mentioned? And if you have seen any specific complexities around these items?
Yes, of course. In B2B, it's a different level than B2C. Because usually in B2C, all the prices are the same for all the users. And in B2B, it's not. So I'll give you an example. We have a customer who had, I don't know, it was 1,000 accounts or something like that. And for each account, for some of the accounts, there is different price. And usually the easiest way to get this data from the ERP, it was managed in ERP and SAP. And usually the best way to get this data from the ERP is to flatten everything. Let's flatten it, account, item, and you have the price, and that's it. Very simple, leaving discounts aside for a second, but let's talk about the basic price. So this was very, very simple, and lots of our customers using this way. They flatten all the prices for all the items, that's it. But when the customer is big enough to have lots of items or lots of accounts, then, for example, we have a customer with 10,000 items, multiply it by 10,000 accounts, then to get this kind of a data, to flatten it out and get 100 million, of pricing, to get this from the ERP and maintain it, it's not a very good, not a good practice. And we also, don't forget, we are a platforms and we support also multi-channel. So we have also a mobile application which works offline, and we don't want to synchronize millions of data to the client. So there are much better and improved way to do it. And sometimes you want to imitate how the ERP is working, and you don't want to flatten all this data into a flat file. You want to keep a similar logic to the ERP, and if a price or a discount is defined per property, per the brand, or per the chain, then you want to take this information into your e-commerce platform and have it also per the chain or per the brand. So a single update in the ERP would be a single update to your e-commerce platform, and not requiring the ERP to send now 1 million of records because you've flattened everything out. And this is a true story that it was very painful to handle it. And then we've changed the way the system works to imitate SAP, because there is no other way around when you talk about the big data.
Yeah, so some very interesting examples there with respect to, number one, the multi-channel. And you also mentioned that the pricing needs to be in sync in your ERP as well as e-commerce platform. But in my experience, syncing this is easier said than done, right? So, and the reason for that is because your sync might not go through, or, you might forget, or there might be so many different challenges, right? So you definitely want to have some sort of source of authority, especially in case of your multi-channel scenario. So I don't know in this particular case what you recommend to be the source of authority, but one of the system needs to be source of authority, and the other one simply needs to be the consumer of this information. So now when we look at the multi-channel scenario, in case of multi-channel, you are going to have the channels coming from many different places, and some of these channels may not really go through the e-commerce platform. So how do you ensure that your pricing is going to be consistent? And we have seen cases where customers are going to be able to do, let's say, double dipping, or they are going to be sort of capitalizing on the pricing loopholes that you might have across the channels. So in case of multi-channel scenario, what are some of the best practices that you have seen in designing the source of authority, in having in one system, so that you don't get into such scenarios?
Okay, so it's very different in which area that you work, and it's different for different customers.
Yeah.
Because we have some customers that are going to the extreme, and they want, before you click submit on the sales order, first they synchronize everything to Peppery, of course, to the e-commerce platform. And once it's synchronized, they working even offline, it doesn't matter. And once they click on the submit button, then there is a recheck of the pricing, and if something was changed, they get an alert, notice this price was changed, let's continue. And this is one way to do it. It's not recommended by, but it depends on your business. If the price varies much during the working day, then you want to do it, like inventory check, but this is a totally different story. Sometimes the price does not change. It changes once in a month. Don't really care about it. Changes are minor. So they say, okay, I'm going to send the order, and the ERP will verify the price. And if there was a change, I will update the order center, because it doesn't really matter. And ERP are going to confirm it anyway. Sometimes it's the e-commerce platform. So as I've mentioned, we have multi-channel, which is also we support also the mobile. We support also telesales, and we support multiple channels. So sometimes we manage all the pricing, and we are the authority. So it really depends if the customer has different channels managed in the e-commerce system or different channels directly in the ERP, and then the solution is defined.
Okay, amazing. So you mentioned that, in some cases, just because of the pricing, you were able to increase sales. So I am actually going to give you a scenario and a task. Okay, so let's say if I have a customer, or I am the customer myself, and I am trying to figure out how I can increase my sales utilizing the pricing. And I show you my pricing algorithm that, okay, this is how I'm actually doing the pricing right now. So what are going to be some of the areas where you are going to be recommending me in taking a deeper look and redesigning the pricing so that I am able to increase my sales? Do you have any recommendations there? How would you approach this?
Okay, so you need to make sure that the rep understands or your buyer understands the pricing. This is the very important thing. I've seen customers that had a very, very complex pricing. No one could understand that. And eventually they just given up and didn't give any discount at all, or went the other way around and just gave discount. And it's a lose-lose, because if you give too much discount, you pay for it out of your profit. So the best is to show the rep what the base price is, what discount was already given to this customer, whether it was out of a contract, or whether it was a quantity discount or any other promotional, because the marketing wanted to promote an item, and have it visualized for the sales rep during the order. And even before he goes to the order, give him a message, show him on the screen, doesn't matter the UI now, what's the current month highlights, what are the current month promotions, what he can upsell and increase the revenues. Because if there is a promotion this month, it means that the customer most likely buy more of those items, and you want to make sure it's visible for your rep and visible for your customer that they will order more. Otherwise, all those discounts and pricing are worthless. And we are not B2C like a supermarket and you get, hey, I get a free item. No, you want to do it during the order process to make sure the customer will take advantage of it and actually buy more.
Okay, that's it for today. Do you have any last minute closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the more of the story that the world is not monolithic. There is no one pricing approach that fits all. And I think that the best advice I can give you is to be aware of the complexity and challenges in your business. It's up to it's per business, per requirement, per the marketing team, and be aware of them when you create a B2B e-commerce system. So at least if you don't answer all the marketing requirements at first, be aware of what you will need to do, so your system will support it in the future. And then you won't be surprised later on trying to implement something that and say, okay, to the marketing, okay, I cannot do it, and your business get hurt. So I think this is the most important thing.
Yeah, and my personal takeaway from this conversation is going to be B2B is going to have very unique complexity. So if you are going to approach it more of the B2C, it might not work. So understand and really think through the pricing scenarios and how that may impact your business, the user experience, and sales. On that note, Eyal, I really want to thank you for your time. This has been an insightful episode.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Eyal, head over to pepperi.com. It's PEPPERI.com. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Andrew Deutsch, who discusses pricing and discounting strategies for companies. Also, the interview with Kirk Thompson from Chief Outsiders, who discusses how team alignment may be necessary to align with your customer experience strategy. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I will try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.